Welcome to the 2024 Winter Lecture Series of the Aiken County Historical Museum. This is the third in our series of 6. This is an extra long series, so if you bought series tickets, you're getting an extra one this year. So good for you for being wise with your money and also supporting the museum. That's what it's all about anyway. And we're always happy to see people here who enjoy learning about Aiken. And we also realize that there are so many stories outside this city, but still in Aiken County, and we are a county museum. So this is the series that emphasizes the history in Aiken and beyond. And today we're going to reach Spring Bonetta about asparagus, but we'll get to that in just a second. First of all, welcome again. And secondly, it's time for a commercial. You know, you can't watch a program without a commercial, and you're going to get a short one. So we want to thank today a few members here from the FFA, from Aiken High School, right? Okay, stand up, please. Oh, not you, the FFA students. Sorry. They are guests today because they volunteered to set up the chairs and take them down. Hallelujah. So we appreciate that so much because there's a lot to do to set up the lecture when we get here, and putting up chairs and taking them down afterwards is difficult. Today, and a lot of you who come regularly just automatically get up and take down your chairs. Don't do that today. There's another event that needs the chairs. So you can just get up and mingle, have a good time, and leave when you want to, but by 5 o'clock, because that's when we close. So now, another part of the commercial that I'm giving today, and by the way, my name's Kathy Cunningham. I'm a past president, still on the board, still interested in the museum and Aiken history. In your program, there's a little blurb at the bottom that says numerous volunteer opportunities are available. And that's my commercial. We are really looking for people who want to support the museum on a regular basis. You don't necessarily have to be here once a week. One day a month would help us enormously. So if you have any interest in that, we have lots of opportunities and lots of things that might just jive with what you enjoy about history. We need people to sit at the desk. We need people at the gift shop. By the way, that's open. And the money goes to support the museum. So just talk to us about volunteer opportunities, and we would be happy to add your name to the list. So, okay, on with the reason you came. We are today welcoming Andrew and Velma Fallaw. The Fallaw family are multi-generational farmers of asparagus from Monetta, South Carolina. Their asparagus roots, you're supposed to think that's funny. Their asparagus roots go back to the First World War and the height of the South Carolina asparagus boom when Aiken County was asparagus capital of the world. Today, Mr. and Mrs. Fallaw continue growing asparagus, and their farm was and is one of the largest producers of asparagus in the Southeast. Many of you have already likely tasted the Fallaw's asparagus, as it is sought eagerly by local chefs each spring. So, without further ado, Andrew, Velma, one of you is going to speak. Okay. I will do this too. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm going to try to get my wife to do this, but she doesn't want to. So. It's good to be here. My wife, Velma, my oldest son, Sean, and my grandson, Wyatt, is here with us today. And they asked us about coming out and talk a little bit about asparagus. So, thank y'all for coming. We're going to try to answer all your questions and give you some information. so that you can grow you some asparagus. Our main objective in my lecture today is to help you grow asparagus in your garden. Okay, that's my main objective. Is so if I can help you get your asparagus patch started and grow you some fresh asparagus, then I've accomplished my goal. Okay? How many of you grow asparagus? Have asparagus in your gardens? Been around asparagus? Don't feel bad. It's a unique crop. So we're going to talk a little bit about it, what makes it grow and what you don't want to do. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. First, we're going to do a little history on asparagus in South Carolina. First of all, commercially growing asparagus in South Carolina, the key word to remember is history. Commercial growing of asparagus in South Carolina is history. It doesn't exist no more. Okay? Everybody talking about Aiken County being the asparagus capital of the world. I don't know. I will tell you this. Growing up as a teenager, we had asparagus on our farm. Daddy had asparagus. And when we had to cut asparagus, instead of going to school, we thought Daddy's farm was the asparagus capital of the world. It was like it was everywhere, okay? But that was in its glory days. Most of that is past now. And other countries, Mexico, South America, Peru, has basically taken the asparagus market. Asparagus was king, turn of the century, the 20s and 30s in this area became a crop that was used in this area. But just like Russia has taken the wheat market, and Brazil has taken the soybean market, Mexico and Peru has taken the asparagus market. You know, kind of hurts sometimes when America used to be the breadbasket of the world. But unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. So the other countries has taken the market. And so any asparagus you buy in a grocery store is either probably going to come from Mexico. If Mexico's in season, which is the spring, a lot of it's going to be Mexico. Peru basically can grow it all year round. So that's what's in the stores right now. Unless you grow it in your garden or get a few very scarce growers, you're not going to get a fresh asparagus. That's the reason I want to help you grow your own. Because if you love fresh asparagus like I do, then there's something good to have. There are some states that still have asparagus. New Jersey, Michigan. I think Michigan last year grew the most domesticated asparagus in the United States. But it's all local and it's all sold as fresh produce in that area. Same way with most of the other places. New Jersey, Canada, they basically grow it. It's sold as fresh locally. And but anything you see in the grocery stores probably come from somewhere else. In South Carolina, asparagus was king in the 1920s, 30s, and early 40s. That's when it was at its height. These are an article here from Bob DeFault. He's a Clemson guy. He says, by 1865, the outcome of the Civil War had planters looking at their commercial vineyards in a new way. Farmers broke their independence from cotton desperately trying to locate another king crop. A variety of crops could thrive in the warm, sandy soil of Aiken. The reference to asparagus being grown as a commercial crop in South Carolina can be found in a 1903 pamphlet called Asparagus, the culture for home and for market. According to the pamphlet, the crop was first grown commercially in Charleston, South Carolina, where farmers produced a special variety called the palmetto. It was cultivated especially to flourish in the southern climate, and soon this specialized variety spread into Aiken, Williston, Bamberg counties. By 1918, the Clemson University Department of Agriculture reported that the state had about 1,100 acres of asparagus in cultivation. By 1937, this number increased to 8,700 acres. That was the height of asparagus being king in South Carolina. So it has a long history. It's been around for a while. I'll give you some handouts that has a lot of this information on it. But says the major asparagus capital cities were Williston, Bamberg, Aiken, Warrenville, Bamberg counties were the major asparagus production counties. There were two asparagus growers groups, the Progressive Green Grass Association in Elko, which is Barnwell, and the South Carolina Growers Association in Williston. There's a Barnwell also. Asparagus was reported to be grown in Charleston, Lexington, Saluda, Allendale, Hampton, and upstate and Greenville counties. Old markets for South Carolina asparagus. Most of the South Carolina asparagus was for fresh market use. They sold much of the fresh market asparagus locally in Bamberg, but they shipped a significant portion to number 1, New York City, number 2, Philadelphia, and number 3, Washington, D.C. That's where the majority of them went. There used to be an asparagus cannery located in Fairfax County, Allendale, which contracted asparagus that was to be processed. But again, all of that is history. So, growing up, we had asparagus on our farm in Monetta, South Carolina. Like I said earlier, harvesting before school. I'll never forget, as a teenager, the principal of our school came to the farm one day during asparagus season. And he told my dad, he said, look, he said, you can't keep those kids out of school. And because we love to go to school. Especially during asparagus season, we love to go to school. And he said, well, you know, they help me harvest asparagus. The principal said, well, you can't do that. You can't keep kids out of school for that. Then he said, well, I'll tell you what you do. You come out here every morning and have asparagus and I'll let kids go to school. We never saw him again. But we always dealt with it. We harvested it, packed it, shipped it from the farm there when I was growing up. They were basically packed. These are the old 12-bunch crates. This is how they were packed and shipped. This is for show. I don't know what this is. That was something I made one night in the shop. But it's all done now in plastic containers. This was our winter job. During the winter, we would make the wooden crates for asparagus season, and that's how we ship. You have to stop and think, if you're going to ship something, especially to New York, how are you going to keep it fresh? When we were kids, another job we had was we had a special place down in the swamps where this green moss grew. And when we would go harvest that moss, you could pick it up in handfuls. And that's what we put in the bottom of the crates. Put water in it to keep it moist while it's being shipped. Today, you just got a little pad on there. Plastic free. But as far as harvesting, that's the biggest part of asparagus is the harvest because it grows out of the ground. And this is an older knife, probably 1930s. This is what they use to cut. I actually stopped by KJ's on the way up here and I bought me some asparagus. Okay. This is from Peru. And this is a standard shipping, and usually about 1 pound bunch. But remember, each one of these spears is individually hand cut with one of these down here. So it's very intense labor, okay? I had a lady one day come to our packing shed to get some asparagus, and we had it all sitting on these little bunches, and she said, I have to ask you, she said, how do y'all get it to grow in them little bunches? And I said, man, I can't tell you all of our secrets. You know, they come up in bunches. A little more to it than that. Okay? This is Peruvian asparagus. It's not like South Carolina. There's a key distinction between it. I'll tell you in just a minute. All these ladies or guys, they cook asparagus. How do you know if it's tender? You ever eat asparagus and just, ooh, you couldn't chew it up? Well, most of this is like that. And the way you do asparagus, never use a knife to cut it up. You do the snap test. You start on this end that comes out of the ground, you start putting a little pressure on it. And wherever it snaps, it's the edible part, you don't have to worry about this being chewy and stuff. But anyway, this asparagus, if I had to guess, this asparagus is probably at least 10 days old. By the time it's packed, shipped, goes through customs, fumigated with methyl bromide, get it in the store, it's probably at least a week to 10 days old. The key to asparagus is freshness. Just like a flower. You go out in the yard and cut a flower off and lay it down, no time it's gone. Same with asparagus. It's very perishable and has to be taken care of. But the reason people say that South Carolina asparagus has a better taste than some of these other countries is one reason. Any of y'all got any idea?
Really fresh.
Iodine. South Carolina soils are very rich in iodine. Any of y'all ever watched WIS TV in Columbia? Have you ever heard of WIS TV in Columbia? Anybody know what WIS stands for?
Wonderful iodine state.
Wonderful iodine state. Yeah. That's pretty good. So, they say that's the reason South Carolina asparagus tastes better because of the iodine. I'm not sure, I just know my asparagus always tastes better than that. That's all I'm saying, okay? All right. So, today we currently have about 45 acres. We harvest about 45 acres of asparagus. And the biggest expense, obviously, is labor. The biggest expense. It takes about 12 to 15 workers to harvest an asparagus crop every day. You have to harvest every day. Your H2A workers are what they call, or your, there's some more these handouts up there. There's some more over here. These are just some handouts you can take home with you. It's got a lot of information that I'm sharing with you. It's just something you can take home and look at. We're going to go over them just a little bit, but just make sure everybody gets one of those. Again, we grow about 45 acres of asparagus. We do all local, all fresh, and so we don't really ship any asparagus. It's all sold to the local markets and stuff. In the old days, y'all ever seen one of these? This was called my grandson has. This was the asparagus buncher. This is how you process asparagus in the 20s and 30s. What you would do is harvest asparagus, you bring it to the shed, and then you would sort it, grade it, and then they had a little ribbon that they run through here. They call it asparagus tape. So they would run it through, and then you would lay the asparagus in the bunch, in the buncher. So you filled it up. Then you close it up, you tie the two ribbons, then you cut the ends off. And that's how you did every bunch of asparagus. And the thing about it is that takes a long time. And the thing about the workers is they can make it last as long as they want it to. So, very labor intense. But this is how it used to be done. During the time I was working with Mr. John Strickland right here, he gave me the opportunity to work with him for a while. Because going to asparagus, you don't make any money, so I had to get another job. I had the privilege to work with John for a little while. I said, there's got to be a better way to do asparagus. Okay? Got to be a better way to do it. So, in 2014, I think, I built an asparagus processor. When we brought the asparagus out of the field, you put it on the processor, it goes through, it washes it, cuts the ends off, they grade it, and it goes to an air buncher, and they pop the rubber band. Made it a whole lot more streamlined. So that's how we process our asparagus now. We don't usually, these usually end up as Christmas gifts now. This one. Also, during World War I, the South Carolina Growers Association, Asparagus Growers Association, wanted to do something special because they were actually shipping asparagus to the American soldiers during World War I and World War II. So what they did, on their labels, they did them as military. They were classified. You have 4 grades of asparagus: choice, fancy cloth, and extra cloth. That it's graded. Well, what the South Carolina Growers Association did, or the Veneto Growers Association, they said, we're going to honor our military. So they did their grades in majors, captains, lieutenants, and privates. It's actually on the label. This is the major, this is the captain. So the asparagus they were shipping to the soldiers, that's how they honored them. Okay. All right. So this is your typical Minetta Asparagus Growers Association label. And these labels would go, they glue them on the end of these boxes. And that's where they went. And of course, you had your different grades they would stamp on it. So that's how they work. They're shipped. A lot of talk about asparagus capital of the world. And like every town you go to, they claim that. I don't know. Kind of like mirror on the wall of the asparagus of the mall. But they did grow a lot of asparagus in this area. I'm kind of like Rex talking to Scarlett and going with the wind. Frankly, my dear, I really don't care. Aiken County, this area, South Carolina, had a lot of asparagus during the 20s and 30s. But like I say, that is history. Okay? All right. I've been contacted by a lot of folks about providing them with asparagus there on the farm. Whole Foods, Food Line, Publix, Walmart wants to buy asparagus from us, South Carolina asparagus. Well, the problem is we can't compete. We can't compete with Mexico. The labor is our biggest expense. It ends up costing us about $15 an hour for H2A workers. By the time you pay for their transportation, provide them housing, medical expense, anything, it's just, Mexico can sell it cheaper than we can even harvest it. I asked one of the H2 workers one day, I said, how much did y'all get paid to harvest asparagus in Mexico? And he said, we don't harvest asparagus in Mexico. I said, what do you mean? I said, it's the second largest asparagus producing country there is in Mexico. He said, we don't harvest asparagus. So they'll go to the prisons, get 500 or 600 inmates. They'll go out and cut asparagus all day, take them back. We can't compete with that. So that's kind of where we're at. So just want to give you a little bit of history of asparagus production in South Carolina. About right. Okay. Any questions on history? Any questions you may have about the history of asparagus in South Carolina? Yes, sir.
What is the iodine in the soil do?
It just gives it a different taste.
Better taste?
Yeah. Asparagus is very tolerable to salt. In fact, before a lot of the herbicides came out, salt was used as a herbicide. They would put salt on the asparagus beds to kill the weeds and grass because it's very tolerable to iodine. And they changed it, they said it changed the taste. That's what they say. Yes, sir.
Can locals find your asparagus somewhere around here?
We have a sales area at our farm where we do sell to the public. We have a few markets. Cold Creek and Aiken carries our asparagus. Randall's Produce in Batesburg. Wingard's Produce in Lexington carry our asparagus. Or you pick it up there at the farm.
Like the farmer's market.
Seaver Produce, they keep some of our asparagus on hand. Yes, ma'am.
How long is a field good for? How often do you have to change?
Depends on the land, and depends on the care. Usually you can figure about 14, 15 years once you get it established. It peaks out about 8 or 9 years. Then after that, it kind of starts
Do
dropping
you
off.
rotate rows then, or?
If you're going to stay in business.
But I mean, it's by row rather than like eliminating a whole field and replanting it.
Right, you, once you establish a field, that's all you do with that field. When you're gonna start a new one, you go to a new field. You don't stay in the same field. You always go to a new piece of soil to start a new field. You never plant behind asparagus, you never plant behind asparagus.
Depletes the soil too much.
It's certain diseases and stuff, is there in the asparagus roots. And so you wanna do a rotation. They say don't plant asparagus behind asparagus any closer than 10 years. So, but you always start fresh. Yes, ma'am.
You showed us the tool that they cut it with in the past. Is that still same type of harvesting you use the tool to cut it? Like the one you showed us? What do you use?
Of
now?
these,
The tool to cut the stalks with?
we don't use these anymore.
What do you use?
My dad made some of these. We use this. I'm glad you brought it up. This is what we use. It's much lighter. Plus, we harvest at ground level, so we just sit back. For gardening at your house, just an old steak knife. Yeah, this is for harvesting all day long. And by the end of the day, you want to throw it away. So, yeah, that's what we use now.
Is there no way to have any kind of mechanization?
No.
Cut it with anything else?
The reason there's no mechanical harvesting with asparagus is because once asparagus breaks dormancy and starts coming up, it grows at all different. You may have an asparagus spear this tall, and right beside it you may have an asparagus this. So you got all these little chips and new shoots coming up all the time. Well, if you went in and just cut everything, then it'd be 4 or 5 days before you harvest it again. So that's where you go. We harvest it 10 inches, or try to harvest it 10 inches. We hate 80-degree weather in asparagus season. It grows so fast you can't cut it fast enough. So it's a cool weather, and we harvest every day. But that's the reason why there's no mechanical harvesters for asparagus, because of the way it grows. You got just spears coming up all the time. Yes, sir.
When is the season? When they're in season?
When it's in season, April. For this area, it's April. If you think asparagus, think April. We have cut it in February, we have cut it in March, but the bulk of the season is April. Yes, sir.
What's the season in Michigan?
Michigan's gonna be on out in June. Yeah, so we're all done by then. Yes.
You were mentioning the various grades of asparagus. Which is the top? How do you know which one is the best?
The biggest myth that I hear in asparagus is the smaller spears are more tender. Some of you may have heard that before. Well, I like the small spears, they're more tender. Again, freshness is a key to asparagus. So it can be, you can have spears this big, and we have grown 3/4 inch spears. I mean, it's huge. Considered extra colossal. I got one customer that wants it all. But it doesn't matter if it's this size or this size. If it's fresh, it's going to be tender. Here's what you run into. Here's the problem with the spear. And I got this bunch just for y'all. I bought this at KJ's a few minutes ago. This whole bunch of asparagus is basically unusable. This asparagus is no longer any good. If you were to try to cook this asparagus, you would throw it out. And the reason why is because it's gone. It's done been out too long. And what'll happen is they, well, some asparagus. And this is what you get. You're going to be very, very dissatisfied. That's one of the things that we pride in our asparagus. You usually get our asparagus within 3 days of harvest. From the time we cut it to the time you get it, we try to move it 3 days. So it's fresh. We do refrigerate, which helps. But as far as tenderness, the grades doesn't matter. Whether it's small or whether it's big, if it's fresh. If you can take that asparagus and snap it, you're going to be good. Don't use a knife, because what happens is on how sharp your knife is, depending on how far you're going to get in that old woody stalk, and then that ain't good. Just
I read here that once a crown is planted, it takes about 3 years for it to grow roots strong enough.
okay, I tell you what, let's do a transition real quick. We threw in history. We can talk about history all day long. We can't change that. Let's talk about something that we can change. Asparagus in your garden. Okay? Let's talk about that. But yes, you plant asparagus, usually takes 3 years from the time you plant it before you harvest. And it takes that long to establish the root system. Asparagus has a massive, massive root system. And it takes that long to get it established because remember, once you start harvesting, that plant is going to produce asparagus for about 8 weeks every day. So it's got to have substance there to support it. Asparagus has 2 different kind of roots. I dug these out of one of my fields this morning. Just to kind of show you. Now, obviously, what you plant's not going to be near this big, and I cut most of the roots off taking it up. But this is kind of what asparagus roots look like. And if you get a 1-year-old asparagus root, it's going to be real small. It's going to be kind of like a giant spider with legs. Okay? But asparagus has 2 different kind of roots. It has a storage root where it stores the nutrients until harvest time. And it also has a feed root which takes in all the nutrients. During the summertime, when it's in the fern stage, that's when it's taking in all this nutrients and stored them. So when you start harvesting, it pulls from those nutrients that is stored all summer. So the key time, the most critical time for asparagus is when it's in the fern stage, not when you're harvesting. When you start harvesting, it's already done all it's going to do. When it puts its bud crops on in the fall, so all the buds that you're going to have is already there before you ever start harvesting. So the most critical time is when it's in the fern. But that's the reason why it takes 3 years. Carl Cantalupi, he's the asparagus guru in North Carolina. He recommends never harvest asparagus the second year. He said the damage you do the second year, that root will never recover during the life of the growing time. So he recommends never start harvesting to 3 years. And that's one of the biggest problems I've seen with people trying to grow asparagus. They go out and plant asparagus, they got bee shoots come up, take for supper. Can't do that. You got to be patient. And you know you never pray for patience, right? Y'all know that, right? Never pray for patience. Because if you do, you're going to end up in the longest line, traffic backed up, aggravating cashier you ever ran into in the grocery store. So don't ever pray for patience. Okay? But you got to be patient. Okay. All right. Let's get into growing some asparagus. I got a riddle for you. Okay? If you know the answer, raise your hand. Okay? Anytime during the lecture. I got a flat tire. I should have bought asparagus. Okay? Once you get it, right here. All of you have your, and I'll tell you the end of what I have. I got a flat tire, I should have bought asparagus. If you've got your specific crop recommendations in there, if you need some more, those one are close to the FFA. We have to get them new by need one. All right. While they're giving those out, another question. You know the most common questions I get when I talk about asparagus? The most common question. It's kind of personal, but. Why do when I eat asparagus my urine stink? Why is that? Most common question I get. All right, I'm going to let you know a little secret today, okay? Most people don't know this. Asparagus is a natural diuretic that makes the kidneys work. Well, but the key thing with the odor of your urine is one little chemical called sulfur. Okay? And if you ever smelled sulfur before, it has a very dissatisfying odor. Well, when the body breaks down the chemicals, the acid in asparagus, it pulls the fingers pulls out the sulfur, and it's eliminated from the body through the urine. So when you go to the bathroom, that's what you smell. Now here's the secret. Only about 50% of the people can smell it. So your problem is not with your urine, it's with your senses. It's just like 50% of the people can't distinguish a vanilla. They said 40 to 50% of the people can't distinguish vanilla because of their sensories. So here's how you know if you're one of those persons that has a sensory problem. If you eat asparagus and you go to the bathroom and you don't smell anything, but the person that's in the bathroom with you looks at you and they got that look on their face like, what is wrong with you? You're one of those persons, okay? But it's sulfur. That's how the body eliminates the sulfur, and that's for the odor. But again, only about 50% of the people can smell it, okay? So, it's a sensory thing. All right. Okay. You go to the doctor, what's the first thing he wants to do? You go to the doctor, you have a little problem and all, what's the first thing the doctor wants to do?
Urine sample.
Urine sample and blood work. If you look at your handout, soil preparation. The first thing you want to do if you want to plant your asparagus patch, or you want to plant asparagus in your garden, is you need to get a soil sample. If you don't get a soil sample, you don't know what you're missing. Okay? You can go down here to the agricultural center. Clemson's got an office in there. You get the little boxes. You go out and do your sample, take it back. They'll do analysis on it, and you get the results back. But unless you do a soil sample, you have no idea what you work with. You just don't know. They say without a soil sample, you don't know what you're missing. And they'll give you an analysis and they'll tell you everything. Asparagus likes a pH of about 7, like sweet. It don't like acid. Asparagus don't like acid soil, so you want it around 7. You want to keep it on the high end. Okay, you run into all kind of problems if you let your pH get below about 6.7. Okay? So you're going to plant your garden, the first thing you want to do is get your soil sample. The varieties up top there, I would recommend any of the Jersey strands of asparagus. Jersey Giant, Jersey Knight, Jersey King, Jersey Supreme, Purple Passion, Millennium, UC157. We have the Giant, the Supreme, the Night. It's what we grow. The Millennium is a Canadian variety. It was developed especially for Canada. We tried it, it didn't work too well. The UC 157 is California. They don't work too well either. So the old Mary Washington and Martha Washington, what we grew up with, you don't even want to waste your time on those. These are male hybrid plants, which means 90% of them are male plants. Because growing asparagus, you really don't need a female plant unless you're going to save the seed and replant. But your male varieties produce more spears than your female varieties, because the female variety has to do the flowering and make the berries, all that, okay? You should, I would recommend, if you're going to take the time and establish you an asparagus row or patch or whatever in your garden, I would start with good roots. You're not going to find those in Walmart, okay? There's two companies that I recommend. If I should have wrote this down. One is out of New Jersey. It's called Walker Brothers, and they got websites. Okay, just Google them. They'll pop right up. Walker Brothers out of New Jersey, and Norris Farms out of Michigan. Norris is spelled Nourse. Norris Farms. That's where we get most of our roots and stuff from. And I don't know the minimum. Some of you may want to get together and do one order or something. But you want 1 year. You want 1 year roots is what you want. 1 year crown roots. You plant that crown, and the third year you can get you enough for supper. Okay? Fertilization is going to tell you all this on your soil sample. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. All that's going to. They talk about incorporating this into your soil before planting. Use a complete blend like a 5-10-15 to incorporate it in your soil before you plant. That's the best way to do it. Okay. If you're going to plant a row, yes.
I have been told to not add nitrogen to some soil here because it's so rich in nitrogen already. I've been told.
Asparagus doesn't need a lot of nitrogen.
So
It does need some. But your soil sample will tell you that. Now, if you've got, if you do a soil sample and it comes back as no nitrogen, well, I say without a soil sample, you don't know. So, this is preparing the soil in your garden before you plant. When you plant, what you're going to do is, I do it in a furrow. Do you a little row, every how long every how much room you got. Full sun. If it gets a little shade in the mornings and the afternoons, that's okay. But mainly full sun. You want to open your furrow up about 6 inches deep. And there's one, you notice on the right-hand side it says apply fertilizer in the bottom of the furrow before planting crowns. I would not do that. Okay? There's only one thing you need to put in that furrow before you plant, and that is your phosphorus. Phosphorus don't move in the soil, so you want it in that furrow. It will not hurt your roots. The nitrogen will. I'm surprised I put that in here. An asparagus root has a top and bottom. Okay? So when you plant your roots, this is the bottom, this is the top. So you want to plant that root like that. If not, you upside down. Plant upside down, and it's going to be a lots longer coming over, okay? Maybe that's how the Chinese got asparagus, I don't know. Okay. But you can go to any B&Z store that sells fertilizer, you buy just a straight phosphorus. A lot of people use it in their ponds, for oxidation and stuff, as an oxidizer. But you want to put that in the bottom of your fur, plant your roots. And when you cover your roots up, you only want to cover them up about an inch. Remember, they're in this 6-inch fur. Only put about an inch of dirt on top of them. Just make sure they covered good. Water them. Then when your shoot starts coming up, then you can work that dirt to them all summer long. By the end of the summer, you basically got a flat ground. If you put 6 inches of dirt on to start with, it's going to make it difficult for that spear to come out. So you want to see some spear up there first. Fertilizer before you harvest in the spring don't help you any. You want to fertilize after you harvest in the summertime in the ferns. Space them about 12 inches apart. You want to drop their roots about 12 inches apart. In your fur, next page. As far as the weed control in your home garden, most of that's going to be hand done, so you don't have to really worry about herbicides and stuff. I mean, this is for commercial acreage. So in your home garden, you're going to do all that. Insects and disease control. This is primarily when it's in the fern stage. Okay? That's when you've got to protect your crop. That's when you're going to lose your crop. If you lose your crop, it's when it's got a fern. When it's up there 3, 4, 5, 6 feet tall, that's when you start getting all these diseases and stuff. So that's when you really need to watch for disease stuff. Like I said, you can read most of this, most of it's very explanatory. The asparagus beetles, because asparagus is basically gone, they're almost obsolete. I haven't seen one in 5 years probably. So you ain't got to worry about asparagus beetles. The big one is the needle blight. This will kill your plant in one summer. Okay? The xerosporic needle blight. It's a fungus that attacks the fern, makes all the needles fall off, your fern dies, your root dies. Because asparagus cannot live without a fern. Okay? And what will happen, you'll notice your ferns start turning yellow. Needles, the little needles will start falling off, and they'll turn brown, and basically your fern dies. Without the fern, your roots die. That's a needle blight. Basic fungicides, bravo, basic stuff that you can buy at any garden supply store. Spray it to spray your fern down. Usually start about June. June, July, and August is the worst months because you've got the high humidity, high temperatures, and you got a 6-foot canopy up there of fern. That's prime for disease. So you're going to make or break your asparagus in your ferns, not when you harvest. When you harvest, it's done all it's going to do. So you just get what's there. Okay.
Does that blight winter over? Do you have to remove the plant when it gets that blight?
If you see the blight starting, the needle blight starting, what you want to do is spray it with a fungicide, and hopefully it'll control it. If the fern completely dies, go ahead and remove it, and hopefully it'll put up another shoot. Yeah. Okay. So that's some of the key things. And I got on some of the other handouts, it covers a lot of this.
Soil type, we're familiar with the areas that you mentioned being rather sandy soils. Is that a better soil for asparagus or not necessarily?
You can grow asparagus about anywhere. You just don't, asparagus doesn't like real wet soil that stays wet all the time. It loves water, but you don't want it standing in the water.
And how long a row for the average home gardener? To get a couple meals of asparagus?
If you got, because you always want to get something to your neighbor. You always want to get something to your neighbor. So if you got a row, I'd say if you got a row from here to that back door, and you got a good established bed, it's enough asparagus for you and your neighbor. So this thing, one of those roots, we checked before, most of those roots, if they're growing and vigorous, they'll put out about 25 to 30 spears per season. So if you've got 100 plants there, you're talking a lot of asparagus. Of course, if you like asparagus like I do, you can eat it all. But yeah, it doesn't take much, because once the years pass by, it multiplies. You may start out with one stalk right here, and in 6 or 7 years, it may be this wide. And you got spears coming up everywhere on that bed. So, if you got pretty fern, you'll have pretty asparagus. If you got ugly fern, you'll have ugly asparagus. This is the way it goes. Yes, sir.
In the 2 or 3 years between planting the roots and starting to harvest the crop, you get these ferns come up. When they've died back, do you leave them? Do you cut them?
You remove them.
You mow them? You do
What you can do, what we do is usually December, January. Okay, most of them gone into dormancy that time. Your ferns died, you cold, killed it, it's gone into dormancy. You just go out and remove that fern. You can mulch it up with your lawnmower, or you can just cut it off and burn it. It don't really matter. Just don't cultivate. No cultivation of asparagus. Once you plant it, once you get that ground level, no more cultivation. Because you do too much damage to the root system. What time we supposed to be through? Oh, we got 1 more minute.
Where's your farm? Where can we come and buy asparagus from?
We're 205 Born Again Road, Batesburg, South Carolina.
205, what?
205 Born Again Road.
Born
Two words. Born Again Road.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you're referring to this as a firm, and what I know of as firm is that they like to be watered from the bottom. So do asparagus have a preference to be watered at ground level or sprinkle, or it doesn't matter? So what about drip irrigation or is that acceptable?
If you've got a real thick canopy during the summertime, I'd probably water from the bottom. Because you're just setting up another wet, moist, humid thing for the things to grow. So, but I mean, it really don't matter. We water overhead.
Okay.
Yeah. But remember now, this fern after about 2 or 3 years, it comes up looking like this. In just a few weeks, it's going to be about this tall, like a Christmas tree. Well, I mean, that's when I say fern stage. That's what I'm talking about. All this head opens up. You got a big old fern. Hopefully, your first year, you'll end up with about 4-foot ferns. You'll have one shoot that comes out after you plant, and that's when you want to start putting just a little bit of fertilizer. Once you get that first shoot up, you get up there, 3 or 4 inches tall, you sprinkle a little fertilizer, work a little dirt to it, but by the end of the fall, that fern, hopefully, about 4 feet tall that first year.
Will the fern drop seeds?
The female plants will.
Okay.
If you've got a female plant, they will make red berries, they have seed in them. You can actually harvest those seed and Plant them if you like, plant them, but just remember with asparagus, you plant the seed, you have to transplant. You can't plant a seed and leave it, because you can't get it deep enough. So you plant it 1 year, you plow it up, transplant. And when you order roots, you'll order a 1 year root. It's what you can either get a 1 year or a 2 year. I would stay with the 1 year, but it depends on your preference. 2 years, just gonna give you a little quicker, because you're gonna get a bigger fern the first year is what's gonna happen. Yes, sir.
I've ordered the plants from North, and when you get them, you get root that long on some of the crowns. Do you spread that root out in your furrow, or you try to dig that root down with a post hole digger?
I would just kind of spread that root out in the fur. Now, if it's a really big root, you can't let it sideways.
Trim them?
Huh?
You trim the root?
No, never trim the roots. If your fur is not wide enough for your roots, just turn it sideways and run it in your fur. It don't matter. Just make sure the head's up, eyes up, and then you can do all your roots along your bottom of your fur, and it'll be fine. But don't ever trim your roots. Yeah, and everything is there. Okay. Any questions I found about it? Any questions on growing?
At the end of growing season, you just cut them off at the ground, or you just let them die off, or what is the?
Okay, you planted your asparagus. This is your third year coming up. It's February of your third year. You're gonna see some spears start coming up there within the next few weeks. You're gonna probably see some spears coming up. What you want to do, everything that comes up, I don't care how big it is, how little it is, how pretty it is, how ugly it is, everything that comes up while you're harvesting, cut it at ground level. Okay? Everything. I don't care what it looks like. Cut it. If you can't eat it, throw it away. But you don't want to leave that spear there during harvest. Because what will happen is, if you leave a spear, it's called a mother plant syndrome. As soon as that spear matures, it tells the plant, hey, we're getting ready to start storing nutrients, and you quit getting spears. So you want to cut everything during harvest. In the third year, you don't want to harvest but about 3 weeks. 3 to 4 weeks, and then just stop. And just let everything. But you cut it ground level. Say, like I say, regular steak knife, go out, cut it off ground level. I like ground level because if some people snap, but if your snap's too tall, that thing will try to put back on new growth, and it's just a chaos for disease. So you don't want to do it. Cut it off ground level. You don't want to go in the ground because remember you got all these little spears getting ready to pop the ground, and you don't know where that. So that's my ground.
What have the deer done to your 46 acres?
Say again?
The deer?
Yield.
No,
Deer don't like asparagus. I got one rabbit. That acquired a taste for asparagus. And we just let him eat his share. But deer, only problem you got with deer is stepping on your plants. Unless you're going to commercial. If you go on a commercial, you're in big trouble. You're in big trouble if you get a deer in your asparagus patch.
Why?
He will shut you down. If a deer walks across your field and he has an urge to go to the bathroom, and he does it in your asparagus field, they will not let you harvest it if they're doing an inspection. Yeah, that bad. So a lot of, they're requiring electrical fences now on a lot of crops just for that very reason. Because they're scared you're going to Because, I mean, on one hand, they got a legitimate concern because 99% of outbreaks, salmonella, comes from feces. So, yes, sir, Mr. Jones.
Folks want to learn, can they come and volunteer and work in your field? with you?
Sure you can. I'll give you the best exercise program. I guarantee you will lose weight.
How's your back?
Your back is rough most of the time, so you get a little used to it. That's the reason why that's the reason why you have to have so many people, because you get out and harvest for 3 or 4 hours, you're pretty much done. So we try to be through harvesting by 12 o'clock. We don't try to subject our workers to prolonged, because harvesting is the hardest part. I mean, you stay in a bent over position the whole time you're harvesting. Now we have carts, we have things that ride on, but they're very slow. They're, it's just another expense. And most of the workers prefer walking. But after 3 or 4 hours, John's got to come in to relieve him. Okay. Anything else?
Can you raise bed them?
Sir?
Can you use raised beds or wall frames, that kind of stuff? Where
You can do raised beds, that's fine. Yeah, if you want to plant these things on raised beds. Main thing is getting them deep enough so that you don't damage the roots and stuff when you're putting out your mulch and stuff. They like about 6 inches deep is what asparagus like. They will kind of adjust themselves, but about 6 inches deep we found it the best fit. Yeah. But you can put them in a raised bed, yeah, they no problem. Love organic, they love organic, anything organic, they love organic. Yes, sir. We use that more straw at the farm that we make.
I'm just trying to figure out stuff that
I've never tried plastic. I think plastic is very hard, but it's hard just to mulch.
The pine straw would be too acidic, right?
I wouldn't use pine straw. Not unless you just want to, for aesthetic reasons, for a little while or something. But other than that, you want something that's going to break down. But yeah, it loves or anything organic. Very loves.
So what time of the season do you quit harvesting the
Asparagus will let you know, but as far as just a rule of thumb, shouldn't use that. I get no response from the lady. Oh, come on.
They don't.
Huh? Y'all know what a rule of thumb is? Every woman in there ought to throw their pamphlet at me. And in some states, it's still on the book. A rule of thumb is a law that says a man could beat his wife as long as the stick wasn't bigger than his thumb. So, guys are going to be very careful using that. But just part of a good reference. Usually we harvest about 7 to 8 weeks before season, from the time we start to the end of it. First year, you only want to harvest about 3 to 4 weeks. Then after that, you go to 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and about 8 weeks is your max. Now, asparagus will tell them because when it's time to quit, it starts screaming. When you used to get, when 90% of asparagus was this size, now 90% of asparagus is this size, this thin. Give me a break.
Okay.
Asparagus is very unforgiving too. If you mess with it, it'll tell on you. So you want to take good care of it. Anything else? I know we got to wrap it up at 3 o'clock. Yes, ma'am.
I lived in Europe. They used to have thick white asparagus.
there, and it was delicious.
We've never grown a white asparagus. Now, some people will actually, on the really big asparagus that we grow, that's about 3/4 inches in diameter, some of the people will actually take that and skin it and make a stew or a soup out of it. I've never done it because I like green. And so, but all white asparagus is totally different. In France, almost all their asparagus is white, okay? And all that is asparagus is grown without sunlight. They grow it in a mound, they go in and dig it before it comes to the ground, and it's all white. To me, it's bland. To me, it don't even play. But that, almost all, yeah, France and Germany, almost all their asparagus is white. But it's a totally different growing. It's, because asparagus doesn't turn green because it's sunlight. So what they do, they make massive mounds, and they go in and remove that mound. That's Thank you very much.